Saints fans, welcome to another installment of Marymount Athletics summer segment, Behind the Moment. Every Thursday over the summer, we've been diving back into some of the greatest moments in each program's history. Today, we welcome back members of the 2017 women's lacrosse team, a team that posted the program's best record of 13-6 and capped off the season with the program's first ever ECAC championship. Joining us today to talk about the season is Head Coach Kate Athing and former players Abby Wescott and Meghan Higgins. Thank you for joining us today. Coach, let's start out with you. The 2017 season was your third year as the head coach of the team. In your second year, the team broke 500 for the first time since 2003, finishing the season with a 10-9 record and making the ECAC semifinals. In 2017, the team made even bigger strides with a 13-6 record and becoming ECAC champions for the first time in program history. Talk about the progression of the team in your eyes over those first 3 years as the coach.
My first 3 years as head coach were very exciting. As many of you know, or maybe some of you don't know, I used to coach alongside Jamie, and my first year as head coach was a huge learning experience. I had a great time, but we had a lot of learning to do as a team and as a program and as a coach in my new role. And then the second year, I think we learned a lot from that first year and kind of what we wanted to do, what we didn't want to do, worked out a lot of kinks. We had a really great class come in, and our second year, we were actually able to see what we were capable of. And our third year just was a continuation of that second year. We had a fire lit underneath of us. We saw success. We were able to do things that we hadn't done in program history and do things that we hadn't done the year before. So that third year when we were able to win the ECACs was very exciting for us, just because we knew back in that first year what we were capable of and what our team possessed as a team on and off the field. And I think the third year was an opportunity for us to put all of that together and really do something with what we had.
For sure. And Meghan, the season started off with a 6-1 record, only falling to number 7, Salisbury. The start was one of the best in program history. And as a team, did you know that the 2017 season had a chance to be a record-breaking season?
I would say that we were definitely working really hard to make that season probably our best, considering the year before we were pretty let down with, at least how the season ended. I think that we had so much more to give, and, it just wasn't something that we were proud of. And then, you get to that year and it was unreal. We kind of just clicked pretty quickly. I think we realized what we were struggling with before. And we really picked it up. I'd probably say, we were winning in the beginning, which was awesome. But the Salisbury game wasn't a bad game at all. It was something that we kind of realized we could probably do a lot better and go a lot farther. And then, towards the end of the season, we were like, there's actually no way that we cannot go to ECACs because it's just not a possibility. So I think that in the beginning, we definitely didn't know for sure, but I think it was the only mindset that we had. Not to mention, as a senior, it was definitely a goal of ours to make it even farther. We always wanted to start the program and leave it better than it was before, and we just want that progression to keep going. So,
sure. And Abby, being one of the biggest offensive threats in program history, holding the program points and assist records, your 2017 year was clearly the best with 97 points and 65 assists. You were joined up front with a ton of talent like Jess Crew, Bridget Stakem, Kelly Campbell, Kellen Cannon, and Natalie Tinkham, just to name a few. So what clicked so well with that team?
I think that the 2016 season ended with kind of a bitter taste in our mouths that we had gotten so far. We had reached so many milestones and goals as a program and as a group of girls, and we just were very motivated, and we ended the season not wanting it to be over. And then we worked very hard over the summer. We came in the fall knowing exactly what we needed to do and accomplish in order to get our goals to be where they were. And I think that the greatest thing about the 2017 season and team was we didn't really have time or personnel to kind of not really do your job. We were under a 20 roster team. We had a lot of adversity that year between Gabby Albig tearing her second ACL, Kelly Campbell having her ankle issues, Kellen Cannon was coming back from an injury from the season before. And so we had all of this talent that just wasn't able to be used fully to the extent that we as a team wanted to. And so there was even more motivation for us to come together and to really pick a lane and figure out your role. Like you had said with my stats and stuff, I was mainly a sister, and for me to be able to do my job, I needed the girls like Gabby, Kelly, Jess Crew, Bridget Stakem, everyone else to be able to do theirs by finishing my assists. And I feel like the ball really started with the draw controls. You know, Natalie, Kellen, and Bridget Stakem really controlled the draw. And you win games by getting the ball from the draw over the attack. And I would say the same thing happens when our defense was working as hard as they were on by getting caused turnovers. Higgs was in the top. Leo was in the top for the team for that season. And, it's all about having the ball and having that control. But then how do you compose yourself and figure that out to actually make that count? And I think what really our team did well was we knew we had fewer numbers than the teams that we were playing. And so how do we use that to our advantage? And we really learned self-control by Coach Kate, using the clock to our advantage and really playing as a group and really focusing on what our individual strengths were and how that contributed to the group as a whole.
Yeah, I love what you said about everybody being able to do their job. That team was incredibly fun to watch, and I think everybody was really focused on doing their job and doing it very, very well. So with the lower numbers, when you have that, really great things can happen, as you guys got to experience, for sure. So Kate, I want to get into the ECAC tournament. Bowing out in the semifinals the year before, the team was fueled up for another run in 2017, as Abby and Meghan have both alluded to. So talk about the mindset going into the tournament the second year.
So I think just like Abby said, we left the season before when we were knocked out of ECAs with a really bitter taste in our mouth. It was one of the most weirdest games I have ever coached in my entire life. Everyone, when the whistle blew, was just looking at each other like, what just happened? It was like, we were upset. We lost. We were also just like confused as to like the last 60 minutes of our life, like what happened. So I think that, again, really fueled us, and we felt the excitement of getting in. We felt the excitement of winning the first round. We felt the excitement of traveling to Muhlenberg and getting that game, and that team was very, very good, and we played a really close game with them, and I think had we had 10 more minutes, it could have been much closer and maybe a different outcome. And so I think everyone felt that their job and our job was unfinished, and it was almost that we had unfinished business. Like I said before, the game was so weird. I can't even pinpoint what happened to us that day, but it wasn't the team that played all those other games that we had won. And I think that happens. You're going to have off games. You're going to have off days. We were just really frustrated that our off game and our off day happened to come on the most important day of our season. But I also think we learned a lot from that. After we had time to walk away from it and kind of watch film and figure out what happened to us. It really was just an off day. And I think that's a good lesson for all of these, athletes to learn as coaches, as, friends, as, in their roles professionally, that you can be really great at what you do and you can work really hard. You can want all the right things for the right reasons. And then you can show up and for whatever reason, it can all go wrong. And so I think that's a really good life lesson that we all learned from that. And I think for me as a coach, I learned about kind of preparation, and no matter what you do or how much emphasis you put on that game, you can still just have an off and bad day. And unfortunately, you know, you can try to employ all these things that don't allow that to happen, which we tried, but it just wasn't our day. So I think in a way that was actually, now that I look at it with perspective, that was actually very helpful for us, because everyone came back in fall ball with that like annoyed, unfinished, like kind of restless feeling. And we just wanted to get started. We wanted to win. We knew we could win. If that had been a good day, we would have crushed that game. And I think that's what was infuriating to us, but also kept us going. And so it really just took us to the next level. And I really think that that game played a big part in our 2017 season, because it was a really good reflection point for us to always look back on and be like, we don't want to do Muhlenberg again. We don't want to feel like that. We don't want to be confused about what happened. So we worked really hard to make sure that didn't happen to us the next go around. And that I also think a little bit of that is we had never played that far into postseason play in our program, especially with the team we had and small numbers that we talked about before. So I think it was just something that we had to work up towards, and it in a way worked out for us to have that loss against Muhlenberg, because it really resulted in a big win for us the next year.
Yeah, you certainly did an excellent job getting them to channel that fire all the way through.
We were mad.
The entire season, for sure. So Meghan, as one of just 3 seniors on that team, what was the feeling for the team when you grinded out 2 one-goal victories for the first 2 rounds against Marywood and Stockton to advance to the first championship game?
I think that we weren't really like fully understanding how far we made it. I think that the first game, I mean, I can tell you, at least from my perspective, all I was thinking was like, that wasn't the game. Like, we didn't just like crush that game. And then the next game, I was like, I don't know. I mean, you guys would know because you know me well, but I get extremely nervous before games. I literally act like I've never played a game before, which is the exact opposite to Katina and Nat, who were the other seniors. They
so chill. Like,
they are just like, okay, let's go out, let's go do this. And I'm just like, guys, this is like super serious. Like, and it's funny too, because I've in high school, I've made it to a championship before, and it was nothing as gratifying as this was. This was truly unreal. And it's so funny because those first 2 games, I had very good games. And then the championship game, the ECAC championship, I think was probably one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. I like was shocked. I'm like, of course, like I've worked so hard. And then I just remember I made such big mistakes, but it's something that's so small that I don't think about really anymore. I'm like, yeah, I didn't show up, but it's amazing because our team, we show up for each other. So you might have a bad game. Like, I worked so hard to, those first 2 games, but I had the rest of my teammates that were able to hold the rope essentially for the rest of us that, had a few mistakes. And then, by the time the game was over, we were like, there's no way we just won. It was something that was so insane to think about. But I think that once we won those first 2 games, we were pretty much in shock. And then it just kind of rolled from there. And once we were in the actual game, I think all of us decided, like, we're here. Like, you can't come to this championship game and not win. It was something that I think that we all earned. So we really did earn it. That's what I have to say.
That was like the craziest postseason I've ever played in too. It was like we stayed past like the time of the semester too, and I was still in underarm. And our semifinal game or whatever was a complete downpour. It was flooding, and it was just so much adversity that season. We're like, we've gotten this far, we've dealt with all this stuff. We're the championship game, half of our cleats were still soaking wet. We're just like, you know what? We're gonna get on the bus winners, and then that's gonna be it. And we're gonna like end the season how we started, together and with motivation and playing for our seniors. I think that was the biggest thing as a program we always try to do, especially in postseason, is playing for your seniors. You're never going to have a time in your life where you are surrounded by so many young women who are completely on your same page. Like, there's no competition amongst each other. It's all working together in cohesion and, with the same goals and with the same headspace about things, that have dealt with the ins and outs of, every group will have issues and trials and errors and things like that, but like you're never at the end of the day going to have such a great group of people who are there just to support you and to love you. And I think that the greatest thing about this team in particular is we are all still, maybe not geographically very close, but we are all emotionally very close. We keep up to date with each other. We're still very inundated with each other's lives. And I think that that was the big difference with this season, as we realized, you know, you can't accomplish what you want on the field if you're not accomplishing and keeping those relationships off the field. It really does translate together. And I think that for our seniors and 3 seniors and how we saw Steph and Asuta the year before and their seasons, it was even more motivation and more emotional for us of like, we can't let this happen to our seniors again. Like that was a very personal goal for our team, especially the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, of like, we saw the devastation of the seniors the year before, that, you know, like we had so much hope, we had worked so hard, we had gotten this far in season, and to have that end abruptly, and we just didn't want to have that feeling again. So no matter how much adversity we had, no matter how crazy the games were, anything like that, it was just not going to be an option not to win that championship game.
We are a very close team. That is very true. I think every year is kind of like that too. So I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And Abby, you touched on it, but following a rain-filled game against Stockton that Saturday, the team went into Sunday's championship against Misericordia and rolled to a huge 11-3 victory and won the title. And I'd love to hear each of your thoughts on that moment when the final whistle blew to end the game. Kate, let's start with you.
Pouring rain, and for any of you who have coached with me or played for me know that I don't mind the cold, I don't mind the heat, I don't mind the snow. I hate the rain. If it rains, I cancel practice. We go inside. That's not for me. So I had no choice. I couldn't cancel the game. It was raining so hard. I've actually never experienced a game like that. I've experienced all kinds of crazy weather coaching, but that was unreal. It was raining sideways. It was flooding. Like people couldn't breathe because they were in hand water. It was, it was just like funny because you just took your rain jacket off and put down your umbrella. There was like no point for any of those things. It was freezing. So a lot of that, I said to myself, like, if I'm going to endure this, like, I am so going to win, because there is no way that we can, walk away from this is bad enough and then walk away losing. So that game was exciting. We were playing Stockton, and it was a 1-goal game. It's always a really competitive game with them, seasons before that and seasons after that. So it was really, really kind of the icing on the cake to win by 1 and to win in such terrible conditions. And we were playing at Stockton, so it was also nice to beat them on their home field. And I knew that when that final whistle blew, I was so excited to get on the bus and get out of being soaked, but I also knew we had a lot of work to do, and that we had another game and we were that much closer, but we also, needed to really start thinking about how to prepare and what we were going to do differently.
Meghan?
Yeah, I would say that I am definitely not the biggest fan of playing in the rain. Luckily, I don't know why I decided my senior year, I've always worn gloves, and then my senior year I decided not to. Definitely didn't think that through for that last game. But besides that, I think that I'm not sure if anyone remembers. I mean, Jamie, you were the coach at the time, and Kate, you were there too. But my freshman year, I'm pretty sure we played like 7 or 8 games in the rain, which was the most unreal thing I've ever experienced in my life. It was like it only rained on Wednesdays and Saturdays when we had games.
Lucky us.
I know. So it was funny that I'm not even kidding you. I mentioned it before when we were when we were playing on the fields, like to Katina and Nat. I was like, it's kind of weird that this is what it is, But I think it adds a little bit to the intensity of it. I think that we were working so hard to get out of the rain. I think we were just so excited to play. And I don't know why, but Stockton and us, we had a very odd rivalry. I'm not sure if it was just the hype of the season or whatnot, but I just remember there was a lot happening where we were basically we were ready to win. And I'm really happy that I'm actually happy that it rained, because I think that it just adds to the weekend. It was just a lot happening that weekend. I mean, some people, once we won at the end, people were also thinking like there were some girls stuck in dorms because, it was after the year. And it was just so funny that there's so much happening that you couldn't even think about it until you were on the bus ride home. And you're like, yeah, we got to go back to reality. We just won a championship, and now I guess we're done with school. It's an exciting period of time.
I just remember, honestly, from playing low attack, and I was playing offense on the opposite side of where our bench was, and I was looking over at Kate calling plays or something, and I saw the tent that was supposed to be covering everyone with rain start to fly off, and I was like, what the heck is happening right now? We're in a monsoon. Can we please just like finish the game, put some goals in, and leave, go back to our nice hotel, but it was an experience for sure. Another whole event in that is I'm a big fan of Under Armour. Anyone that has played with me knows that, like top and bottom, covered, good to go, warm.
Opposite for me.
Yeah.
You're everything.
Yes. Yeah. And I had told everyone like, hey, I'm putting my stuff on. They're like, Abby, no, like you always wear your stuff, like whatever. I was like, no, it is going to be cold. I don't care what month it is cold. They're like, we play, in 20 degrees, 15 degrees, whatever. And we show up and it's already pouring, and girls are then trying to put Under Armour under that little tent on when their skin's already wet. And then they just kept falling and getting more wet and more wet. And it was just terrible. So that entire experience at that point was just, everyone was just ready and motivated to, hone in for that game time, get the job done, get off, get to the championship game, and win, get back on the bus, celebrate together. And then, it had been a great season. So, there's so many parts of that just were, looking back at it now, funny. The time, not funny at all. It was like, what is happening? What are we doing here? So yeah, I mean, looking back at it now, it's great memories, but
yeah. I would change it. But
yeah, so clearly we are all scarred from the Stockton game, but then we all dried out and recovered and went on to beat Ms. 11-3. And when that final whistle did blow, I was very thankful that we were dry. And I think second, I thought about, Higgins and Abby's classes. Higgins, Nat, and Katina were seniors, and they were originally recruited and coached as freshmen by Jamie. And so I really felt that they were really loyal to me, and my first season wasn't the season any of us wanted, and they really stuck by me. And I felt very proud of them and proud of what we were able to accomplish together, but also felt very thankful to them. And then same with Abby. Abby came in as a freshman, and that was my first year as head coach. And I think she also really bought in and realized it was going to take time to, do what we knew we wanted to do. And so I was very, very thankful for those two classes in particular, for kind of seeing us through the times where we knew we could do it, but didn't necessarily do it. And then also we had a really strong class of sophomores who kind of like brought a whole new level of talent and kind of culture to our team. And so I was very thankful that in their short time as Saints, that they were able to experience that and see that, hard work can pay off. And I think that just lit a fire in them to continue, to build and to kind of fill the shoes of some of the seniors and juniors who were shortly leaving after a couple of years. And I also think that we were a really small team. I think at that point we were only 16 people. And so that was a really big coaching moment for me to realize that sometimes it doesn't matter how many people you have. It matters what kind of people you have. And they just got accustomed to, we don't sub, you don't have an option. You have to do your job and you have to play. And I think that taught me a really good lesson that sometimes it's not, quantity over quality. I definitely believe that that helped me to define what I want to recruit, who I want to recruit, and that sometimes it might be that we're in that position, but it just goes to show that you don't have to have 35 girls to win. You have to have 16 that want to win. And I think that was really a big defining moment for me in my coaching mindset.
So that season had a ton of awards for the team, including 6 players being named to the ECAC All-Tournament team, and Jess Crew taking MVP honors with 10 goals and an assist over 3 games. So Kate, talk about your approach to coaching a team like this that had so much talent on both ends of the field.
So we did have a lot of talent on all ends, in the middle, everywhere. We were very fortunate that kind of recruiting and how things fell into place really worked for us. And I think we had an anchor on each end and a lot of really, really strong support players. We didn't really have a role that I couldn't find someone to fill. And I think that was also a big part of what I touched on before about having the 16 players. A lot of times there's more than 16 jobs and more than 16 things to do out there. So some people had to change their jobs. Some people had a more glamorous role than others. And I think that everyone stepped up and did what was assigned to them for the greater good. And so I think that my coaching approach definitely changed because I wasn't building it around one end. And I think sometimes coaches have to do that. If you have a really strong goalie or a really strong attack, you kind of have to figure out a way to make up for the other end or keep it out of that end or, kind of doctor it to make sure that that isn't kind of glaring on film or on scouting reports, that that's kind of where you're weak. It really all came together for us in the fall. And I think where we did have weak, areas, or we did have areas for improvement, we pinpointed them, recognized them, and moved people around and really worked on them to make sure by the time we got to that point in our season that it wasn't an issue for us anymore. So I think coaching that much talent, A, was really exciting. It was really fun to watch. And B, I think we had the talent and that wasn't the part that they needed. They needed there's only 16 of us. We're all we have, we're all we need. And there was a lot of reassurance that we don't need 10 other people to win. You can do this job. It might not be the job you did in high school. It might not be the job you did last year. It might not be the job you did in fall ball, but this is your new job. And I believe that you can do it. So it was a lot of reassurance and a lot of, building our culture kind of, up to what we are today. And I think so much of, our success after that is because of people like Abby and Higgins and their classes in that team who really took on kind of the brunt work of winning.
That's so true. I think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is, how many things have to come together to win a championship. And I think that you just did an incredible job putting the right people in the right seats. And like you said, they may not have pictured themselves there, but you knew that they had what it took to do that job. So it was really, really incredible to watch.
Thank you.
For sure. And I'd like to wrap up today's conversation, giving each of you a chance for final comments on this moment and give everyone out there a viewpoint they might not see from a box score. So Megan, let's start with you.
So I would probably say that something that I noticed, I guess, from even the beginning of starting at Marymount, but it's kind of like a general thing for lacrosse, that box scores, I feel like don't necessarily show the individual work that's done by each person. I think like you both just touched on how, you find the person that can give you the result in that situation. And I think a lot of the stuff that we work on is fundamentals plus situational practices and things that you can almost capitalize on at practice, but also in the game. So basically you're doing your job, but you can also do other jobs. You don't have to just worry about perfecting one thing. And a lot of times you have attackers that are amazing at setting picks. They don't show that in box scores. I mean, defenders, like I remember one season, I think it was one of my best seasons, and for the most part, I either face guarded or I played low D. So every time that I gave up my person, I would just pick up the person that's about to throw an assist. And I think a lot of times you don't get, you make sure they don't score. So essentially I'm stopping them from scoring, but you're not getting, a turnover or a caused turnover or ground balls. So I think a lot of times you don't get to see that. Middies are nonstop running, couldn't do it, bless them for doing it. But they're running nonstop, and a lot of times they're stepping in for attackers and defenders that, you know, could be running over the line. God forbid you get an offsides call. In that kind of situation, I think that they don't show that either. And a lot of times it's definitely something that I wish that could be shown. Obviously, there's no way to do that. But unless you watch the game, you can see how hard people are trying. That's not being reflected there. But I think that's the best part about our team. Our team always steps up for each other. So it really doesn't matter whether or not you are, I don't know, you're on defense, you're on attack. We had a lot of people that played a lot of different things. I'm pretty sure, Katina started scoring crazy amounts of goals when we were a freshman, and she ended up on defense towards the end. And I'm sure that a lot of middies can be that way too. And attackers, you know, you find your calling. I somehow scored a goal my freshman year. I know we were there and we saw how terrible it was, but that's unreal. I was like, it's just like random things that you work as a team. It's not, I think that's not always shown. And it's definitely one of the best memories that I have on the team here. So
I think it brings up some great points of the box score does not tell an entire story. It gives you bullet points of what happened and just statistics. And, you know, everyone has their role, like we've been talking about, and everyone has their niche of something that they're like extremely good at. And, you know, like you said, Jamie, about, you know, we had a team this season that had so many different awards and had so many milestones in their individual careers, its team career, everything. But it didn't feel like that when we were playing together, you know. It didn't feel like one person was bigger than the team. It didn't feel like someone was outshining the group. We all knew that, you know, to do our jobs, we needed everyone there, everyone that was on the field. We couldn't do it alone. I think that's the greatest thing about this program is you aren't alone, even if you feel like you are. You have so many other people that are there to support you and to work for you and to just be there if you are having a bad day. You know, everyone has a bad day, everyone has a bad game, it happens. And the box score doesn't tell you, know, as an attacker, you know, we're very like stat oriented. Like I have to get my goals, I have to get my assists, I have to do these. Defenders aren't like that. You know, they have caused turnovers or ground balls and they're doing the brunt of like the hard, gritty work. And I'm over, you know, waiting for the ball real fast to chuck the ball to Jess Crew for her to score and me get a point. I mean, I just like, it doesn't really work that way. And you don't see that in box scores. And, you know, there's games, especially on the other side of what Higgs was saying, of like the people who are being face guarded or double teamed and can't really statistically do much, but they're doing a lot really by taking away one of the defenders and giving everyone else more space, more time to really do their job. And so I think the greatest thing about this program in a whole is everyone has the opportunity to step up. And while you might have a role for something, it's not cookie cutter. You're not just given, hey, this is exactly what you have to do, figure it out. You have to be adaptive to what is needed in every specific play, not just every game. And I think that especially with a small roster like we had, there was multiple times I was watching and talking to Kate on the sideline and I just saw her chuck someone in and she's like, go play here, go play defense. And she's like, I'm a low attacker. What do you mean play defense? And they're like, they'll communicate to you, figure it out. And we're just like, okay, we got to go with it. And so everyone then, right? Everyone then jumped on
them, but they would be attackers. That's literally what it was. Yeah. There's like, they'll tell you what to do. Don't worry, just go for it.
And I still, attackers had the harder job going on defense because, you know, they're such a tight-knit group. Defenders going on to attack, you know, you can step aside, let us run ship, we're good. And then midfield, you know, they were already used to playing both sides. So I do think that we did have so many contributors in this season. While we had some people that were higher in statistics, every single person played a role. You know, Higgs brought up Katina. Katina was a workhorse all the field. You know, sometimes Kate was just like, get over to attack, I need to talk to this person, or like whatever. And, you know, she ended up coming up with some assists or some goals and stuff. Like, it wasn't like she just showed up and didn't do anything. You know, she wasn't the top of statistics, but she was scoring or getting ground balls or getting draw controls or whatever she needed to do, she was doing. And, you know, VI, the sophomores, for this season specifically, finally had a season under their belt and kind of matured into their roles a little bit, which is exciting.
Yeah,
I think that's
definitely.
what changed the 2016 from 2017 season is they needed that season under their belt. They needed the support and the education from Coach Kate, you know, to kind of control themselves a little bit. You know, Steakum was a workhorse, but she's all over the place all the time, wanting to go 150 miles an hour, and so is Kellen. And, you know, how do you rein that in, get that person to learn their strengths? And, you know, like Kellen is one of the fastest girls I've played with, but she was too fast for herself for cradling the ball. And Kate had to like work with her step by step to use that speed to her advantage. And, you know, the greatest thing is, like I said, we weren't very egotistical on this team. You know, like we were very good about hearing criticism, not just from the coaching staff, but from our peers and from our teammates. And, you know, you kind of have to be like that to be able to be in a successful team. You have to not only be able to self-reflect, but you have to be able to stand up and be that bad guy almost for your teammates, for the better good of what you want to accomplish. And I think that we did an amazing job of just remembering that we all want the same thing. We are all working for the same goal. It's not coming from a mean or vindictive place. It's coming from a place of like, we want to be successful. You're on this team for a reason. We believe in you. We love you. We want you to be your best self. We want you to be the best, not just for yourself, but for the entire group. And for the group, we need everyone to be at their best. And I think that that was what was so special about being part of this program is every day, whether you were having a good day, bad day, whatever it is, you always had support and you always were being pushed in the right direction to be able to do your job better than the day before.
Yeah.
Very well said, Abby. So I think just two final thoughts from me that wouldn't be visible to anyone on a box score. Number one is kind of a personal one. I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think this team and that season really solidified for me that coaching is what I meant to do. My first year was rough. There was a lot of learning. There was a lot of losing. There was a lot of rain, a lot of things I didn't like. And then my second year was a lot better and I started to see some success. And so it's hard after that second year to kind of, was that just because it was better than the first, or is this success going to continue? And then my third year, I really saw that success continue to build and continue to grow, not just on the field, but off the field. And I think I became a little more sure of what my coaching philosophy was and what it is that I wanted to accomplish. So for me, that season really solidified that coaching was for me and that's really what I was meant to do. And it was a good learning lesson for me to see that 2 years before you could be doing a lot of losing and 2 years later you could be doing a lot of winning. So I don't think you know, if and when that cycle comes back, you know, I think it's a good lesson for myself, my assistant coaches, and all of the athletes on that team to know that it can be a quick turnaround, and with hard work and being loyal, it can really change. And it really did for us. And thankfully, since then, it's only been on the up and up. So I think that was a really kind of pivotal point for myself and our program. The second thing I think you won't find on a box score is that we had a lot of fun. That team was fun. Everyone was fun. We did fun stuff. It was before Corona. We could go places. We could do things. We were having a great time. And, you know, every team has adversities off the field, on the field. Every team has things that they work through. And we had our share of that, of course, but it was really, really fun. And I think winning the championship just made it that much more fun. But overall, from beginning to end, it was a really, really fun season.
Very
For sure. For sure. Well, that will wrap up another installment of Behind the Moment. We'd like to thank Kate, Abby, and Meghan for joining us today and helping us relive a great moment in Marymount Athletics history. Tune in next Thursday as we bring you another installment of Behind the Moment.